Welcome to the latest edition of Here's What We Know, the podcast of unexpected conversations. And when they reached out and said, do you want to talk to Jedidiah Collins? And I'm like, Jedidiah, there's a name. And I'm like, oh, okay. And I said, do they call him Jedidiah? And they said, no, he goes by Jed. And I'm like, Jed Collins. Jed Collins, who played fullback for the New Orleans Saints, and they said, yeah, he played in the NFL. I mean, because they don't know, right? He played in the NFL. And I'm like, yes. And they're like, well, he's in the financial planning and stuff. I said, we'll talk about that. We will. But first of all, let's get him on the show. Jed, how are you, my friend?
Oh, brother, it is a beautiful Friday as we're talking today. Life is good. I'm getting to chase a dream. I'm surrounded by love in my family and truly just looking to progress and get better each and every day.
I love winners. I love success stories. And that's what you are. Now, if you're not watching the podcast, because I know the majority of people listen to it, but some people for some reason want to watch me talk and whatever. But if you're not watching, Jed can tell you that I am wearing my New Orleans Saints sweatshirt. And in my background is my son's New Orleans Saints helmet, because I have been a New Orleans Saints fan my entire life. And you may wonder how this guy in Silicon Valley got to be a Saints fan, right? Well, I grew up in LA for Lower Alabama. Okay. Now, when I grew up, because I'm significantly older than you, we only had the 4 channels, right? ABC, CBS, NBC, and PBS. Well, when I grew up, you only got on the CBS games, you got one of 2 games. You got the Falcons games or you got the Saints games. And I'll be honest, I fell in love with that helmet. I thought that helmet was the coolest thing, and I thought the Falcons helmet was the stupidest thing.
I got to agree with you. As far as logos and branding, that Fleur-de-lis, I mean, you see that anywhere in the world, and you have that connection to the Who Dat Nation and the Saints. My daughters now are really leaning into that community and becoming Saints fans. And for those not watching, I also have my Saints helmet. Mine, fortunately, was signed by the 2011 offense, which at the time was the best offense of all time. So it is a community I am proud to be a part of.
Yeah, your Saints helmet is real. My Saints helmet is plastic, right?
Mine's got a few scars on it.
Well, because yours was there for a purpose. Mine was because my wife actually got my children, because I grew up here. They have been born in the Bay Area. So they've been San Francisco 49er fans their entire life. That's just what they know. But everybody in the house pulls for the Saints because they're just there for dear old dad. All right. And so, and my son, every now and then he'll do this. I'll share this with you. Because, the Saints, they've had a tortured history. And he'll go, wow, Dad, I'm sorry. I know it's got to be tough. And I said, baby, here's what you need to know. My New Orleans Saints won a Super Bowl. I never thought that would happen in my entire life. The problem with the 49er fans, which are the same problem that people are having with the Kansas City Chief fans now.
Yeah.
And before that, it was the Pittsburgh Steelers fans and the Dallas Cowboy fans. If you have sustained success, your fans turn awful because now they expect it. A Saints fan, dude, if the good Lord calls me home today, I'm good. I saw the Saints win a Super Bowl. And now that this is the crazy talk we have here in California. There is a small minority of people who think they should fire Kyle Shanahan. That's true story. I talked to one season ticket holder. Well, we can't ever take that next step if we don't go to him. I'm like, dude, do you realize he would not walk out of the office of being fired before he had his first job offer?
Oh, yeah. And
so
it is all about those expectations. And again, circling back to just the New Orleans vibe, what I love about being down there is they are as passionate about the game as any nation, but they're also with those expectations eternally supported. You lose a game in New Orleans, you walk a block, there's going to be another band playing, another cocktail being drank, and you're in having a good time. That's the essence of what that city embodies. But you're absolutely right. I talk to Patriots fans now, and it's like, pause. You had 20 years. You had 20 years. It's time for you to sit on the sidelines for a little while. And the other helmet I get to support and brotherhood that I'm a part of is them Detroit Lions. I hope the pride, they don't get to say they've got the one. I hope they get that one this year.
Aren't we all pulling for the Lions?
Aren't we all?
And that's what I mean. There's just that. It's my take. Listen, I also am an Alabama Crimson Tide fan. I get it. Everybody's tired of us. I get it. And when Alabama loses, they're always like, "Oh, I'm so sorry." I'm like, dude, we've got so many. Don't worry.
Yeah,
we're
we'll be all
good.
right.
It's fine. But everybody pulls for the Lions, just like I think everybody pulls for whoever's playing the Chiefs. And I told my son, I said, this is the thing I want. I want the Chiefs to lose, but I want Patrick Mahomes to never get hurt because the NFL is better with Patrick Mahomes in it. And without Patrick Mahomes, the league goes down a little bit. Feel the same way about Josh Allen, feel the same way about Lamar Jackson, but Patrick Mahomes has separated himself. But as far as the Lions last night, again, as we take this, because I know it'll probably come out later, but as we take this, this was we're in the day after the Thursday night game where the Lions ran it with 4th and 1 when they could have kicked the field goal, but they ran it on 4th and 1 to run out the clock to beat the Green Bay Packers. What were you, as somebody who's played the game and for that franchise, what were you thinking?
The first question is, where's the fullback? We need 4th and inches. We need this juggernaut in there. But it is one of those decisions that is going to define Dan Campbell's legacy. It is one that next year, when it goes the other way, people are going to condemn him, ask for his job. But it's a message and it's a mindset of we're not here to just compete. We're here to win. That is not a message that has been through the Detroit Lions building arguably forever. He is making a statement and saying, I trust my guys. I trust this team. I trust that we are here to win ball games. I love the tenacity. I love the decision. I disagreed with it at the time. But as you look at it, that's why he is standing and sitting in the spot that he is. And that's why they are knocking on that door of clinching that first round bye.
I totally understood at the time. I said, I can't believe this is happening because my son was doing his homework. And I said, we'll get into this conversation. My son's a freshman in high school. He played tackle football for the first time this year. We'll go into that discussion because there's a lot I love your journey and I just love it. I shared it with my son. But I said, hey, dude, come here. And he's like, what? I said, they're going for it. It's 25 seconds or 45 seconds left, 4th and 1, and they're going to go for it. And he's like, why? And I'm like, oh, okay. Well, after the game, I love what Dan Campbell said. If we were going to lose, I wanted to lose with my offense on the field because he knew they couldn't, their defense was so depleted. He knew they couldn't stop them. And they have a really good field goal kicker, and he couldn't stop them. So he figured he would take a chance to win. And I'm like, it's like you're saying, I would never have made that decision. I would never have made that decision. But the truth about the NFL is you're going to get fired anyway. If they can fire Bill Belichick and if they can fire Jimmy Johnson, you're there to be fired. So might as well do it the way you think.
And I think that's the message that everybody needs to take, not just in football, but in life. You're going to lose. You're going to be beat. You're going to have things go the wrong way that you never expected it. As an entrepreneur, I'm realizing this on a daily basis. But all I can control is the message I put out, the person that I am, and the decisions that I make. And I like that. If we're going to roll the dice, let's do it with my best foot forward. In this case, it was the Lions offense. But looking at it and saying, hey, I don't control the outcome. I control the input. And if I want to be known for something, this is what I want to be known for. That's a life lesson takeaway that I love the beauty of sport because it translates all of these messages into the reality of life. But yeah, That's if I'm going to go down, I'm going to go down swinging with my best punches.
Yeah, I want to get into the next phase of your life here in a few minutes, but right now I'm geeking out on
Sure.
football, and I love
Let's go.
fail the first attempt at learning. I love
Love
that,
it.
right?
Yes, sir.
And we're gonna jump into that because I
Huh?
think it's fascinating and how you approach these young players. But you didn't start playing football. You're like my son. You didn't start playing until you were in high school,
High
and
school. Yes,
I'll
sir.
tell you why. I'm on name drop here, right? I was playing golf with Ronnie Lott one time, right?
Huh?
And my son was probably in 7th grade. And I said, "Hey, my son wants to play tackle football, and he's only played flag football, and my wife is scared to death. What's your thoughts?" And he goes, "Don't let him play till he's in high school." I said, "Why?" He goes, "Because he needs." I said, "Is he going to be a big boy?" I said, "His grandfather is 6'8". His uncle is 7 feet tall. And yeah, I think he's, and I'm 6'2". And I think he's going to be a big boy. He goes, then he needs to be lit up by somebody his size or bigger. And he's either going to jump up and go, that was awful. I never want to do it again. Or that was amazing. Let's go. And he goes, now the good news for you is about 60% of the kids jump up and go, I don't want, I won't do it. Right. But if he jumps up and says, I love it, you got a football player. And he went through it about 3 weeks into camp. He got lit up. And I said, so how it was? He goes, well, I just jumped up because I wanted to know everybody I wasn't hurt. And then we had to do sprints. So I wanted to make sure I won the sprint so everybody knew I wasn't hurt. And I went home and told my wife, and I said, I think we have a football player.
Yeah. And that's so I grew up in a basketball family, and it was
So
that
that
same
was his
mindset.
game, was basketball.
Yeah. My parents said, nope, football, too physical, too violent. We didn't know anything about it. My dad was a basketball player. And so that's why I waited until high school. And it is exactly what you just described. That first day of pads, there is nothing. And everybody wants to compare it to battle and war. It is not a war, but it is definitely a battle. And that first day of pads, you put the helmet on, you have no idea what's about to happen. It was the first kind of, bright light that I saw from a collision. And you either fall in love with it or never want it to happen again. And for me, being the youngest brother, being somebody who had never been a fighter, to have an atmosphere as a young man to say aggression is not only welcomed, it's encouraged. It was a great outlet for me. And it was a great way to look at myself and be able to challenge myself in ways I never imagined. That word fail you talk about, football makes you fail every day you step on a field. Somebody is going to fail on the rep. So I applaud you for waiting until high school. I have two girls, so I don't have to face that decision just yet. But I always said if I was going to have a boy, he would follow my path and wait and put on pads in high school.
He, I when I was doing my research on you, I pulled up something on when it was talking about your journey, and in high school, Mission Viejo, and that's a big football bit. So the fact that you made the team is a big deal. But I love what you said, and it's because I'm going to tell you what he said. About 2 months into the season, I said, "So what do you think?" He goes, "I love it, Dad." I said, well, "What do you love about it?" He goes, "Thanks for a second." He goes, "I love that it's so hard. I have to practice 5 days a week and then have a game, and I have all my homework." He goes to a really nice school, right? It's an all boys school, really nice, And he goes, "And nobody knows how hard it is except every other guy on the team."
Ah, the brotherhood.
And I
That is,
said,
you
"That's
go
it,
off to
buddy."
camp for a reason. Training camp, Hell Week is meant to bond you, and it's meant to weed out some of those who don't truly want to be there. But he is absolutely right. The only ones who know it are the ones who walk through hell together.
Yeah, I will have to share with you also, since you're a Washington State Cougar, my best friend was the student body president of Washington State 3 years in a row,
What's their name?
Steve Weimer.
Oh, I know the name, don't know him very well, but he's in the Cougar family. That makes him and I best friends.
There you go. And that we root for I root for ancillary teams. We root for the Cougars. My wife went to Iowa State, so we root for Iowa State. Matter of fact, when Brock Purdy came out for the first time on the
Oh,
49ers, right? So the first time he comes out, my son looks at me and he goes, "Dad, it's Brock Purdy." And I said, "Dude, you may be the only kid in California who knows who he is."
that's the truth. And that is the beauty of it.
Well,
Uh,
and aren't you glad to see that these kids are staying in school? I know with NIL, it's easier for them to stay in school now. But I mean, Brock Purdy's the poster child for it's important to play.
yeah.
If you're Anthony Richardson or if you're Trey Lance, you may be an amazing athlete, but there nothing beats the reps.
Oh, reps. And this is, again, another thing that sports teaches is reps is everything. And I look at myself. I was not a combine day player. I was not a guy who was going to walk off the bus and go, look at the size, look at the speed. I was a guy who needed to get a few reps on film and show you, no, I can do this. And I look at this elevation of athletes at a younger and younger age, the expectations that are built up upon them, and it's set up for something that they have never had to go through, which is losing on a field, losing on a rep, losing on a performance. And that's where you look at these NFL players or these college athletes that are professional athletes in their own right today. And you say, well, where has their series of reps and their series of losses been? If it hasn't been on the field, how are we expecting them? Because the higher you get, the more you're going to lose. How do you expect them to get to that level after you've told them for 6, 7, 8 years how great they are to realize at that speed, at that top, they're barely average and they've never been average before? How do they take that challenge? And if my blessing and curse was in high school, in college, in the NFL, I was humbled, but I wasn't shocked by it. I was ready for it. When I got humbled, I went back and did what I do best, which is get better inch by inch. But you look at these first round picks and everybody says, how does this kid with all the talent in the world not achieve what we wanted him to do? And it's simple. You never gave him the atmosphere or the preparation to fail. And confidence doesn't come from success. Confidence doesn't come from getting drafted in the first round. Confidence comes from getting on the field, getting rep after rep after rep, and losing most of those reps, identifying how you lost, and then having the plan to continue to go forward. So I see these young athletes and they're missing out on the time in the darkness. They're missing out on the time when no one's watching because NIL is forcing this marketing and forcing this business. They get the shine put on them, and then where do you have the capacity to lose? Where if the sun is shining on me, I don't want to disappoint today. And the reality is, most everybody needs to learn how to lose before they can really learn how to win.
I love that. You're missing the darkness. And when
This,
you sat back and said blessing and curse, I mean, it is rare for a first round draft pick, especially overall number one, to make it. I mean, think about some of the greatest quarterbacks in history. Infamously, Tom Brady,
yeah,
sixth-round draft pick.
my guy Drew, second round.
Well, yeah, and you go through. I mean, I can go through the whole litany of Fran Tarkenton, Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Phil Simms. I mean, people who weren't coming in and they had the chance to learn and grow and get the failures. And I think there's nothing more dangerous than that free agent or late round draft pick figuring out I can play with these guys
Mm-hmm.
because it's a bigger shocker for a first round draft pick to go. These guys can all play with me.
And and if you are the expectation is you got to walk in and not only play but dominate and lead a team to win. You can't. It's not that you can't. It is very hard to do that in your first year with all the changing environments around you, the new pieces that are coming to your life. It is it is really neat to see somebody who has time to build. But right now, nobody, just like your coaches, like we were saying, your clock is started and they're waiting to fire you. And
Mhm.
the athlete is no different. Your clock is started as a freshman in college. The moment you step in there, if you're getting paid that kind of money, you're supposed to be able to perform, and failure is not an option. And again, that's most where we look at college sports in the past. Your freshman and sophomore year, you got beat up, you got torn down. So as a junior, you can walk in and finally say what you just did. I can play here. I deserve this. And as a senior, you look at it and go, all right, now's my time. Now they're expecting an 18-year-old to walk in and say, now's my time. or a rookie to walk in with 28-year-old men who have been playing this game at the highest level for 6 years and say, oh, I know something you don't know. You don't know anything, and you're not bringing anything new. All you can do is show up and try to outwork me. And the reality is, at the NFL level, very few people are going to outwork those guys.
Yeah. The only, the only advantage that a rookie has, you're cheaper. As
Barely.
as I like to say, because I've been I worked at the station, KRTY for a long time, for over 30 years, almost 40 years. And I always tell everybody, you know what the secret of my success is? I'm the best they can afford.
That's the perfect. That is the perfect.
If they could get better, but they can't afford it.
Yes. And the flip side of that, I always loved talking, because I was the guy who would go ask the salary cap people, the general manager, just high level questions, because I was curious. I got cut a ton of times. So I'd always, try to find an edge. And they always explained to me, you are allowed to give us a certain amount of headache based on your talent or your contract. And I looked at it and I said, my contract is way down here. The headache I can do. But you're absolutely right. Fit that balance. How much value do I add versus how much do I cost? And that connection is a massive one for somebody to understand. But as you look at these young contracts, yes, they redid about 10 years ago the CBA, and they're not paying rookies the crazy amounts they once were. But rookie minimum next year is $1 million. And so as you look at kind of making that roster, cheap ain't necessarily the leading indicator, though I do love that mindset. I'm younger, I'm cheaper, I'm healthier than most veterans. And as you look at this salary cap continue to grow, both based on people like Patrick Mahomes and Taylor Swift's boyfriend, but looking at the attention and the eyeballs this game is getting, the financials are astounding to me. The ability to continue to put out these contracts, the expectations come with them. And it is going to be a really neat atmosphere to see how much the I always called it the game of 53 plays into the decisions, the processes, and the things that go forward. Because you look at the Los Angeles Rams, they invested, took their shot, got the championship, and have since had to kind of recover from it. How do you build without having these rookies, but then they're also having to meet these expectations? It's a never-ending equation, and it's what makes football so great.
Hey, listen, my Saints are in salary cap hell.
Hell.
They are,
Yeah, they are.
and it's like I've always said, I was trying to explain to my boys. I said, the problem with the Saints. I said, the Saints are always going to find a way to win 6, 7, 8 games. They always are. And that's going to always get them that draft pick. We're not going to get that, oh my gosh, draft pick, right? Alvin Kamara was like the last time we got a, oh my gosh, draft pick. But that's where the Niners find themselves now. The success, the NFL is built for the successful to fail and for the non-success, because they want parity.
Want parity.
And that's what makes the Patriots. It's what makes the Chiefs right now amazing. I'll bounce this off because you're a football guy. If Patrick Mahomes, and again, realize that this podcast may come out after the Super Bowl. I don't know. I record them and then my team puts them all out. But if he wins 3 in a row, I think that pulls him equal with Tom Brady in the GOAT contest. Simply because Tom Brady never did 3 in a row, and it's never been done in the history of the current NFL model. Now, you've had Jim Kelly go to 4 Super Bowls, but didn't win them. If he wins 3 in a row, I think that pulls him equal. Your thoughts? So, and don't forget, and don't be afraid to tell me I'm as wrong as could be, because that doesn't hurt my feelings.
So I'll explain it this way. So I just got to go back to New Orleans for the alumni weekend. One of my teammates was being inducted into the Ring of Honor. Now, I was trying to explain to my daughters why the significance of this. He was the 8th player in New Orleans Saints history to go into this ring. And I tried to explain it, and I said, hey, there are a lot of guys who are all-stars, and there are a lot of guys who are the best at the game for a period of time. When you get into GOAT status, when you get into Ring of Honor, Hall of Fame status, it is much more around the longevity than the talent. I look at players on a year-to-year, 2-3 year basis, and there are better players than Tom Brady in a single season. But the beauty of what he did was 20 years. He had different runs with completely different teams in completely different eras of offense and defense and schemes. So I wouldn't put Patrick Mahomes on that level yet until he's over that decade. When he starts to get into, I'm in year 13, 14, and I am still a top tier quarterback, then it's no question. He is building his resume and building his performance to say, if I do get to year 15 and I'm still anywhere near the top, look at what I have done. But look at Russell Wilson. I think Russell Wilson is coming back into his prime and into an element that the Steelers are allowing him to win. But had he not found the Steelers again, he wouldn't have been in that conversation of greats. If he goes and starts to win in Pittsburgh for 2 or 3 years, you step back and you go, wow, look at what that guy did over 15 years. So again, I hesitate for that term mainly because every young person today throws out GOAT way too much. But when you look at what Patrick Mahomes is doing, it is the thing of greatness. Show me his next run. Show me when he has a different squad, a different team, and a different run in 2 or 3 years after he's been decimated, after they've ripped it down, they figured this one out. You got to show me how you go win again. But obviously, unbelievable.
I don't think you're wrong. I don't think you're wrong at all. I think there's something to be said about the longevity. I don't know if we'll get the longevity anymore, simply because after you've made $1 billion, and let's be clear, we're going to have quarterbacks who are going to make $1 billion in 10 years.
Easily.
I think after you've made $1 billion, why would you put your body through that? Why would you put
You're crazy?
Why would you put your family through it? I mean, again, I don't know this is me, supposition. But from everything I can tell, Tom Brady's marriage broke up because football.
Yeah.
No. Yeah, you guys want to go out and eat? Well, okay, I'll have half avocado. Woohoo, let's go crazy. Right? And the sacrifices that everybody had to make. And I think it's hard. Listen, the NFL that Archie Manning played in was nothing like the NFL Tom Brady played.
No.
Right? And Tom Brady played in long enough that the NFL that Patrick Mahomes has played in was not the NFL that Tom Brady started. I mean, don't forget, Tom Brady got his job because Drew Bledsoe literally had a lung knocked loose from his body. He almost died in the ambulance. Go Cougs. He almost died in the ambulance. And it was an out of bound hit. It was a flagrant out of bound hit. And that was the NFL that Tom Brady came in. And by the way, I don't even know if it was a 15-yard penalty. I'm not sure they threw a flag on that.
Back then, no.
Yeah.
But you look at that longevity and you say the game is now designed to protect its stars. And so I agree. It's once you become that questionable, hey, money is no longer the option. But I will say, Gary, what I love about this level is it's not the money. And there are guys in the NFL who are playing for money. Do not mistaken me. But that top tier, that top 10, 20% of guys, I got to play with Matthew Stafford, who in his first contract never had to worry about money again. He's now in his third. And if he gets to a fourth, he'll approach that $1 billion kind of status. But you look at it just like my curse is persistence. And I actually had an email this morning. A school administrator said, Jed, I love your tenacity in your follow-ups. The reason I was able to overcome 13 times getting cut was because I am cursed with this idea of belief in myself. Greatness comes at a cost. Greatness is not satisfied by a dollar amount or even an achievement. Success is a fleeting moment gone by. And if you truly are craving what these lucky few are chasing, it is not one championship. It's how many can you achieve? I look at somebody like Patrick Mahomes, who is no doubt going to be a billionaire. In 5 years, his question is going to be, Tom did it when he was 36. Tom came back, won a Super Bowl. I am not challenged by money. You're right. The physical danger it takes is what makes football great. It is the modern day gladiator. But I think as we look at these true separators from the rest of the pack, they're driven by something else, and that dollar and that contract is going to come to them but it is not going to question greatness. Greatness is a different level. You look at the baseball contracts, Juan Soto, by the time this comes out, will be a decision. We will know which franchise coughed up the most amount of money. And you ask yourself, I remember when Albert Pujols got that giant contract, and he was never really the same. Shohei, so far, year one, exceeded expectations from a financial perspective. But will it continue to question athletes as the money is no longer the question? What is your driving force? That's what I'm saying is the internal drive of greatness doesn't have to do with their contract. They want it for their ego. They want it for the notoriety, but they want to have their legacy printed on that trophy.
You make such good points because there was a report that came out earlier this year that said most billionaires have sociopathic tendencies. You know why? You know why? Because if you hand me, if for some reason I do something and I make $60 million, you know what?
See ya.
You're probably not going to see me anymore. I'm good. I'm done. I'm out. It's a different mindset to go, no, I'm going to take that 60 million and turn it back into 140 million.
Yeah.
Oh, and then I'm going to take that 140 million and put it back in and risk it all to see if I can make it to $500 million. And so you have to have kind of bonker mentality to do that. And it plays into what you're saying. I mean, there's part of us that sat back and looked at Tom Brady and go, you're crazy. You're crazy. You especially, I understood why Archie Manning hung on, right? Because you could tell I'm an Archie Manning fan. But I understood why Fran Tarkenton played forever. I understand why Billy Kilmer. I'm so old. I remember when Billy Kilmer was a halfback. You realize that's what he was drafted as?
That's where he started.
He was a halfback for the New Orleans Saints, and all the quarterbacks got hurt, so they had to put him in. But they hung on because they were only making. They were making good money compared to the rest of the country, but they weren't making generational money, which is what they make now. And so it's when I sit back and see these guys, when I see a Matthew Stafford, who I think possibly it is the only great quarterback who has won a Super Bowl that I still think is underrated.
Wow.
I think he's that underrated. He is.
Wow.
But you don't hear when people talk about tier one quarterbacks, they don't talk about Matthew Stafford.
That's true.
You take Matthew Stafford away from the Rams. I mean, the Rams can beat anybody on any given week, right? And if they made a playoff push and got in, nobody would want to play.
Scary.
Why? Because Matthew Stafford. But nobody puts him in that same level. Dude, that quarterback, that throw he made to Cooper Kupp, and everybody talks about it, but the throw he made to get them in the Super Bowl in Tampa Bay, when he had the guy literally right here, and he throws him and hits him to get him the first down and put him in the field goal range. That may have been one of the most courageous throws I have ever seen in my life. And the no-look passes, shut up.
So you talk about what are you doing it for? Matthew's been the guy since he was in high school. He was the number one recruit. He was the number one draft pick. He was the highest paid player. He was the this, he was the that. And yet he's showing up and still doing it. I mean, even his wife now has a lot of money coming to her, and she has her own brand and everything going on. But this dude still shows up through injuries, and he's had a plenty of them, and is putting it out on the line. I look at that gentleman I was talking about, Jari Evans, the best guard in the game for a decade. He came up to the Seattle Seahawks. He went to the Green Bay Packers after New Orleans, after $70, $80 million. I remember he came up to Seattle, and I live in Seattle now, and I go, Ja, you made $18 million a year. Why are you still playing football? The curse of greatness. The curse of greatness.
We all want a better life. And what's the most valuable thing we have? Our health, right? Are you ready to make that a priority? My friend Candy Woodring shared the Tronol product line with me. Tronol is French for change life, and that's their goal. They offer products you've been curious about, like Activate, the GLP-1 line that helps curb appetite, the Enrich supplement that helps your body be more efficient in the use of food. What sets their products apart is they're all certified, backed by research, all natural, gluten-free with no oil or other chemicals. As Candy says, what do what you have to lose. Try the product. Email her at the link below, and she will reimburse your shipping cost and will work to make sure you're 100% satisfied. Change your life by clicking the link below. Let's talk about the inevitable. End of life. Once I leave this earth, I can't do anything for my loved ones, but I've just learned by pre-planning a funeral or cemetery in advance takes the guesswork out when death occurs suddenly and your mind is clouded with grief. Dignity Memorial can help. My friend Tina Skurla pre-plans funeral and cemetery arrangements so loved ones don't have to. They're North America's largest provider of funeral, cremation, and cemetery services. They're dedicated to getting every detail right, and they do that by listening to you. I know it's a hard subject, but I also know we all see the sense and value of what Dignity Memorial does. Use the promo code Gary to get 25% off at Willow Glen Funeral Home. Reach out to my friend Tina Skurla today. She's committed to helping families not go through the tragedy of loss alone. Click on the link, use the promo code Gary, or email her at dmppatinaskurla.com or call 408-398-7050.
I love that. And I loved your story because you played linebacker, right? And you were small. You said I was small as a linebacker. Well, that's the way linebackers used to be. Outside of Ray Nitschke, the linebackers were the small, little, fast, mean, nasty guys. Dick Butkus wasn't 6'4". I mean, that was the way it used to be. And then it turned into that. And now it's something even different. But I loved how when you got in the pros, how you decided you weren't a position, you were a football player.
Yeah.
Wow.
And show me the shortest line to make the team. And guess what? It was fullback. And so I love that claim because you show me the other athlete. I was all state as a linebacker. I was all conference in college as a tight end, and I was an all pro as a fullback. Changing every level, an entire position. And again, my greatest claim to fame, and I love this, I run a 5-flat 40. 5:02 was my time when they came to do my senior day. Every special teams coach looks at me and throws me into the trash on day one of training camp. By the end of training camp, I'm starting on every special teams there is, usually the personal protector. I'm a big part of it, but not because of my resume, not because of the athleticism. A 5-flat 40 is unheard of, even for offensive linemen nowadays. I mean, there's left tackles who are running 4.7s at 315. And that is who I have been. That's also why, I venture out into this entrepreneurial idea is I don't want you to give me anything other than an opportunity. And if you give me an opportunity, I'm going to figure out and stick around until I add value. And that is the only mindset and message that I have is I'm a hard guy to kill. You can't get rid of me. And I'm going to figure out a way to make this thing better. And once I do, then you find my role, you find my position. And in the NFL, it was, you're too short, you're too slow to do so many things. Not many people want to do this. Will you go do that? I'll figure it out. And it took me getting cut 13 times. But after that, I did become the number 1 rated fullback in the business. So I was around long enough to figure that out too.
It ain't the size of the fight, the dog in the fight. It's the size of the fight in the dog. Again, I love dropping names. I had a chance to play golf with Craig Morton. If you remember who Craig Morton was.
Yes, sir.
Craig Morton played quarterback, took the Niners to Super Bowl, Dallas. It was Cal quarterback. And he was telling me, he goes, we were talking about it, and he just casually mentioned it. And he goes, because I wouldn't want my kids, because my kids want to play football. I'd let them play. Well, maybe except for fullback. He goes, that's the worst. That's the worst. Fullback is the worst position in football.
That is no doubt.
Really? He goes, now, if you're on the offense, you love the fullback, but you don't. He goes, I've had my life protected by fullbacks, right?
Yeah.
He goes, but I wouldn't want my son to play fullback.
So my dad actually asked me a couple days ago, Jed, how, when you go into these games, do they tell you kind of what the first couple plays of the game are going to be? I said, yeah, it's called openers. Usually about the first 10 plays are scripted, so you know exactly how the game's going to start out. They want you to see the defensive looks and make adjustments. And I said, when I got my compliments was when one of the first 3 plays of every game the Saints started to run was lead ISO. And it wasn't to go get yards. It wasn't to go get a home run, touchdown, anything. It was we're going to let our dog out of the cage and we're going to let him go after your guys and show your defense. You're not the aggressors here. We're going to come downhill and we're going to slap you in the face. And that was the best compliment. That was the bone they threw the fullback is you get one of the first couple plays of the game to go show these linebackers you're not afraid of them and they should be afraid of you. And again, we were a very good offense. We were Drew Brees in the passing, but we came because that first punch in the mouth was the fullback coming onto the field and saying, we can do this too. You guys tell us where and how you want to line up. We'll play this game as well. And it is, I look at the fullback because in high school and college, I was the guy. I was the celebrated. I was a receiving tight end. I was leading the nation in receptions as a tight end, the shortest tight end in the NCAA when I was playing. And I got to the NFL and they go, you're not going to touch the ball. Nobody's going to know who you are. You are just going to go and get in car accidents about 7-8 times a game. And in training camp, triple that. And it is this humility mindset that the fullback, and what I love is I had to adopt the persona of I'm not the guy anymore. I create the way, I move people to allow the guy to go do his job. I went from, and I love this analogy, and you can use this, in every sport, there are artists and there are tough guys. I was an artist in high school and college. I became a tough guy. I stopped trying to do the things that everybody talks about and wants to see, and I started to do the dirty work and the dirty jobs. And you're right, fullback, there's a reason they're going away, is you have to have the talent, but you have to have the tenacity.
Well, everything goes in cycles.
Yes, it does.
Everything goes in cycles. And so you're going to start seeing when you get that special player who has that desire, whether it's Heath Evans, whether it's you, it's that desire. I remember Robert Newcomb, that desire of just, I'm gonna, and everybody on the team, whether the even though I think most real fans now really understand the concept behind what's happening.
Yeah.
But back then you didn't know. If you just saw O.J. Simpson run, you're like, woo! You don't realize, no, man. There are so many things that happen. He's a special talent, but you got to have everybody doing that, and that whole concept. Tony Dorsett would tell you, I need my fullback. I need that guy. I need that guy to give. I only need that much of a hole. I'm holding my hands out about
6 inches.
I only need that much of a hole. But if you could give me that much of a hole, I can do something. And the fullbacks would be like, I got you. I can do that. Really? I mean, you going to go hit Mike Singletary? Yeah, I'm going to do that.
And I don't got to move him far. 6 inches. That's all you got to do.
I can slow him down. It's going to change the world, and then you go do what you do. Because even without, again, as I saw it, you saw that the other night, the Ravens and the Eagles talking about one of your old teams. Matter of fact, the Eagles drafted you. But when Derrick Henry rolled Tide, one of the nastiest guys, I mean, nobody wants to see Derrick Henry coming at him. No, but you saw he caught that pass, swung out, and Cooper DeJean by himself picked him up and drove him into the ground. That's what happens when you don't have that block to let you get up the head of steam.
And get on them quick. On them quick.
I do want to ask you one more thing, and then I wanted to talk about what you're doing now. Explain to me, you're talking about Matthew Stafford. You're talking about Drew Brees. And those are the billionaire players. They're always going to be. What made them special? And I know we're going to talk about that inch, how you look for that inch. But you talk about short. Drew Brees is short. And Matthew Stafford looks like he weighs 110 pounds. He looks like a fashion model, right? I mean, I've never seen a quarterback with that size of waist. I mean, he just doesn't. But the toughest guys, I mean, that's a different kind of hit to have somebody come in and blindside you. What is it about those guys, some of those people that you've played with, that just you sit back and go, wow, what did you take away from it?
And honestly, quarterback's the only position you don't really get to hit back. You get to take it, and your hit back is look at the scoreboard. And stories I've endless, and I love being around. I always tell people I was 6 feet from greatness. I never really was, but I was around it. guys like Drew Brees. I pride myself, me being Jed, I'm the first guy in the building. I'm the wake the weights up guy. I'm the guy who's going to outwork everybody. And the only person in New Orleans, the 4 years I was there, who beat me in every day was Drew Brees. And you'd walk through the dark halls. Nobody else was there. Nothing else was on. And he'd be sitting in a meeting room by himself watching film. And you just see that from the franchise, from the $100 million man, you're outworking the rookies. My last year in Detroit, like I was saying, the early morning workout guys, 5:45 a.m., we're in the weight room, and it's me, Reggie Bush, who's, I got to play with him on 2 teams, Dom Raiola, who's a 15-year center, Matthew Stafford, who's at that time was about an 8-year quarterback. And you looked around, you said, the average age of these players is 30 years old. Where are the young guys? So what I came to see is that inch mindset. I came across it with a linebacker as I was making my tour through Kansas City as a Chief. The linebacker told me, and he said, Jed, the only reason I'm here is because I come in every day and I steal an inch. And it was a mindset shift, and it was a mentality that has stuck with me to this day beyond just the football field. For those of you watching, I'll have my little Post-it notes. Those are the inches that I've taken this week. Every day I track my inches. And he said an inch leads to a yard to a first down to a score, and scores get us to wins. We're all here to win and go to the Super Bowl, but it begins with that inch. And I started to look at that and say, Monday through Saturday is 6 days a week. My battle as a fullback was measured in the 6-inch battle we just talked about. If I can go steal 6 inches from Monday to Saturday, I walk on that field Sunday already having won. I've already prepared. I've put my inputs. I can't control the outputs. I control my inputs. And so what I came to realize was at the NFL, everybody has talent. You got there somehow, some way. Really in college, everyone has talent. It's that idea and the mindset of what are you going to do now? If you've never been knocked down, how are you going to get back up? If you've never been challenged, if you've always been the fastest guy on your team, what are you going to do when somebody is just as fast as you? Where is your edge? Where are your values going to be added? And it's this idea, this tenacity, this hunger to walk in every day and go, it doesn't matter how good I think I am, how good you think I am. My job today is to get better. And the ones who are still there, I got to walk into New Orleans with Cam Jordan. Those guys who a decade later are still playing, they have come in with that hunger of, even though I'm a first rounder, even though I got the money, I'm not here to do anything for you. I was playing with Darren Sproles the year I was with him, the year he set the NCAA record, the NCAA NFL record. The next year I asked Darren Sproles, I said, Darren, you set an NFL record. Who do you compete with now? And he looked me dead in the eye. You want to talk about short guys?
Yeah.
He looked me dead in the eye and goes, Jed, I'm going to compete with the same guy I always have, myself. He went back to his workout. And it was that humbling moment of, dang, if I set an NFL record, I might take the foot off the gas a little bit. Like you said, you give me $60 million, see ya. That's why I'm not great, but I was around it. And the guys who are great have that internal measurement that has nothing to do with what you see or what you say. It has to do with what they believe and what they see in the mirror. And that inch is the only way that they approach it each and every day, painstakingly. Greatness is not fun. Everybody wants to say how fun it is to win the Super Bowl. It is extraordinarily brutal and hard to win at anything. You got to take food off of somebody else's plate. And if you're great, you have sat at that table and continue to do that time and time again, only because your mindset shows up and pushes you to do that.
I would only argue this one thing. When you sit back and say you're not great, I think the good Lord has blessed you with such an understanding of not only human nature, but your nature and how you can help others. I think, especially after talking to you, dude, you are great. You are great in so many ways that you don't even, and most people don't. They don't realize it. They don't realize it. This is my world. This is what I do. But for you to sit back and go, no, I'm going to get done with this and I'm going to write the book, Your Money Vehicle. And I'm going to set up the money vehicle thing. And I'm going to do the rookie to veteran. And I'm going to help these kids who are coming in who have getting more money than they've ever known, whatever they're doing. It is so easy. Jamarcus Russell. I bring that up, right?
Yeah.
Number 1 draft pick out of LSU, played for the Raiders. And never lived up because once he had the money, and you know what I fear for every player who goes in the NFL, the NBA, the NHL, doesn't matter to me. I hope somebody is trusted enough by them and cares enough for them to go, you've earned this money at such a high cost. Let's make this money work for you. Let's make this money be something there because Father Time is undefeated. Ask Aaron Rodgers. You know, no matter where you are, even if people forget, Peyton Manning won a Super Bowl. He won it by not being able to throw 15 yards. Right? I mean, he couldn't throw a 25-yard out anymore, but he was smart enough to figure out his way around the thing. Tom Brady at the end, he was still playing well, but he wasn't Tom Brady of 5 years ago. For sure, because we all and Tom Brady fought it as hard as you could fight it. I mean, nobody could fight it more, and he was genetically blessed. And it's kind of funny. My son actually got to start a game. He was the backup quarterback. He started a game at Sarah High School. Sarah High School is where Tom Brady went. When you play there, you play on the Brady family field. It's right there on the sign, the Brady family field. I'm like, no pressure.
Don't look up. Don't look up.
Don't look up. But what made you care enough about everybody else? Because that's what your superpower is. That's why you were able to look around and go, here's what I need to do. The thing you had over the other players, they weren't asking that linebacker in Kansas City. They weren't talking. They weren't noticing that Drew Brees was there. They weren't taking the time to talk to Jai Evans and go, why are you still doing this? I mean, it's the curiosity in an effort to help and build. That's what you got, man. And don't undersell it because it's a special ability.
And I can take you back to the day. Again, learning that fullback mindset, the servant mindset is what I was fortunate enough to get playing in the NFL. But I hold a sticky note above my computer. June 21st, 2008. I was a rookie with the Eagles, and they came in and they did a financial presentation. It went over my head. And I looked around the locker room. I said, I'm the business major. I'm the accounting degree. If I didn't understand that, nobody understood that. And I wrote, I'm a big journaler. So if any of you are listening, you want to know, hey, what's one thing I'm going to take away from Jed Collins? Journal. It's a way to time travel. It's a way to get closer to whatever you want. I wrote in my journal, I said, I would love to come back and teach Jed as a rookie this language of money. Because what we've come to realize is making money in professional sports is not the dream. It's, are you going to leave your game with money working for you from professional sports? Everybody has seen the dream become a nightmare when 4 or 5 years later, that first round pick is showing up, not even invited, showing up to training camps, begging for a job. They are not living a dream. The professional athlete window is 3, 4, 5 years, and you have to make that last a lifetime. You can't do that without education. I know there's a big story going around right now about Baker Mayfield being defrauded. I was high school teammates with Mark Sanchez. He went through it. But it's the financial illiteracy that leads to a lot of these struggles. You don't need to be CFPs. I became a CFP because I'm passionate about this, but you need to speak this language. And so I went out 15 years ago and started to empower myself as my first student and saying, how can I learn to build a plan? How can I learn to make money my employee? As I went down this, I'm very proud to say I partnered with the NFL Players Association. I work with a lot of NFL teams. I have talked to and taught over 1,000 NFL players this year. That 15-year dream has come to fruition. My crazy part, and I appreciate what you're saying, is my dream changed about 7, 8 years ago from how do I support my brotherhood, the NFL players, to how do I empower 1 million students? And that question coming out of a workshop, somebody asked me and said, Jed, you're good at talking and helping me learn about money, but how are you going to do this nationwide? And it set me out on another path, same passion, same focus, same message, but a different path to how can we bring what money vehicle has become into a high school classroom? I'm very fortunate over the last 3 or 4 years. We have seen states start to mandate financial literacy as a graduation requirement. California just this summer passed that mandate, meaning in the next 4 years, every high school in California has to find a class that looks just like money vehicle. Where we are looking and focusing is how do we translate the language of money to a form that a student will understand, which is why we use the vehicle analogy, money vehicle. Each chapter of the program builds a different part of your car. Again, connecting it to concepts and ideas students today understand, but then moving beyond education to empowerment. We don't want you just to learn. Yes, we want you to speak the language, but we want you to know what to go do. And that has been really our success in schools and in students is now I know what to go do. I don't only know the concept, I know how to apply it to my real life. And so that million student mission is crazy, but it's no crazier than a kid running a 5 flat trying to make the NFL.
Well, and the truth of it is the scope of your business has now expanded in the last few years because now you can legally give that class to college kids.
Absolutely.
I mean, think about it. I mean, Ohio State, not to rub salt in their wounds, because who knows? But as we take this, they could end up winning the national championship.
Sure.
So it may work out. But they have $20 million on that field. When you look at that field,
plus,
that's
way
a
more,
$20 million plus payroll for the colleges. You need to get in there and talk to those kids right now. Because again, they start thinking, and the truth of it is the vast majority of those playing, I read this a couple of years ago, and I'll share this thing. A guy said this statistic, 85% of the kids who played in last year's Final Four games, could not make the G League. Now that's the minor leagues for the NBA.
Yeah.
85% could not hook on with the G League. That's how hard professional sports is. And to get and talk to those kids, especially, listen, in their case, college may be their big money-making years.
Now it for sure is. And that's my first question to every rookie class. And when I get to go talk to universities, because I love talking to them as well. And believe me, Ohio State's paying a lot more than $20 million. I look at them and I ask them, what's the difference between being rich and being wealthy? And you love to hear the responses because so many players, I get to stand in front of an NFL class. Great. There's 12 of you in here. There's 7 of you in here. You're all rich. Rich means you have money today. Being a professional athlete, you get the good fortune to become rich, but that becomes an insult. Rich athlete should insult you. Wealth is how many tomorrows do you not have to worry about money? And that is the transition, because that's, as you said, when you start employing your paycheck, making it go to work for you, you get to look at tomorrow and say, I'm all right. Can we get that to a month? Can we get that to a year? Can we get that to a decade? And when we really look at the opportunity, a 19-year-old making $1 million, and there are hundreds of them walking around college campuses today. There are some starting to walk around high school campuses, which is the newest kind of sensation. You say 20 million. I've talked to a couple of high schools who have $2 million salary caps in high school.
Wow.
Yeah. So as you look at this, the opportunity is now here. You are rich. You have to start learning how to speak this language of money to become wealthy, to really capture your dream and avoid the nightmare in the statistics that we all know from the Broke documentary and from the years of what professional athletes have been. But as you were talking about billion-dollar quarterbacks, we're entering into an atmosphere where the next 10, 20, 30 years of wealth is going to come from athletes. They are the new frontier. That what happened in Silicon Valley 25 years ago started again in the NBA with the Golden State Warriors when KD and all these guys started looking around at each other and go, There's 3 guys who will be billionaires on one NBA team, not named Michael Jordan. The athlete mindset has shifted and changed. They are no longer, and I'll quote Jay-Z, you are no longer a businessman. You are a business, man. And so they come in now with this intention. As an NIL athlete, I am not a W-2 employee of anyone. I'm a 1099 contractor, making me an entrepreneur and a business in myself. That comes with a lot of responsibilities, taxes, which we are seeing very quickly, but it comes with an opportunity to identify and say, this game can change my future. Very, very few are going to kick their heels up and never have to work again, but you can have decades of a head start. When you make $700,000 in college, that's a decade of a peer going and getting a real job and working. Can you capture it? Why money vehicle? We do not work with any clients. I'm a CFP. I have no clients, no assets. I do not manage money. I'm not a bank. I don't want your accounts. We do none of that. We are one thing, pure educators. We want to come in and show you, not the answer. I don't give you the fish. I teach you how to fish. What questions should you go ask that banker, your advisor, your accountant, your attorney? We call it the A team. Every college NIL athlete, every professional athlete is surrounded by people who work for them, and they have never had a single individual tell them to go ask those people questions. So that's where my trust has grown. I love to tell athletes, one, I'm one of you. I always ask, if you've ever been cut more than 13 times, raise your hand. But 2, I want nothing from you. And that is where the trust begins to grow. I don't want your an account. I don't want your money. I want you to capture this dream, because all I'm doing is paying it forward from that kid who wrote in his journal 15 years ago.
That right there is brilliant. I mean, and the fact that you are giving them something that they need. They need to have somebody who they can trust. I mean, and you're right. Watching the Broke documentary, seeing the things, having the temerity to sit back and go, hey, guys, not having 6 kids from 6 different women is going to make a big difference. I mean,
big financial.
If you want to look at, if you want to look at LeBron James and Steph Curry, they have kids with just one woman. And
man,
seems to be working out pretty well for them.
Yeah. LeBron James, I don't know how you were crowned. You had the expectations.
And lived up to them and surpassed it.
Has never stepped outside of the bounds. 20 years, surpassed it, and there's not one negative thing you could say about that guy. And you look at this new Starting 5 documentary, he's even more likable than we thought. It's insane.
And that's it. When you sit back and see the family, right? And what's the basis of his life is his family. What's everything that's important to him is his family. And if we could sell that to these young athletes, and either way, male, female, both ways. If you can do that, create that structure. And what is it I read one time? If you wait till the age of 26 to have a child, there is a 95% chance that child will never live in poverty.
Oh, that's amazing.
My brother-in-law taught me that. He's a financial advisor, and he taught that to my kids. He goes, if you'll wait till 26 to have a child, there's a 95% chance they'll never live in poverty, because you will have figured out how to manage your time and your money by then. So it is so I am fascinated by you. I'm fascinated by what you do. And I love the stories. As you can tell, I could go on for hours and just ask you about every team, because I've been a fan. My son asked me, he goes, how long have you been an NFL fan? I said, son, I don't remember ever not being an NFL fan. I remember my father used to show me off when I was like 6 or 7, because I could name the head coach of every NFL team. I've just been.
Today, I have a nephew who's 7 years old who could name every receiver in the NFL.
That's impressive.
I go, that's insane.
Yeah, my son asked me today, because I was trying to explain to him the greatness that was Harold Carmichael for the Philadelphia Eagles.
And he's like, meet Harold.
He's like, oh, did you? Oh, man.
Oh, yeah.
I love that guy. I was the biggest fan. And he was my favorite player. And for a guy being raised in the very deep racist South, it was kind of looked upon that I was such a fan of Harold Carmichael, because I just didn't care. I just thought he was the greatest guy. I
Bigger
thought
than life.
he played hard. He played hurt. He played hard. And he just seemed like, from what I could tell through the helmet, a damn decent human being.
Yeah.
So
great personality. No, and this is, again, we've been talking about a lot of things. What I love is I get to look at my former teammates. I got to see Drew Brees when I was back in New Orleans for Jari's event. And he says, man, it is so cool what you're doing after we're done. I have a passion. I have a purpose. And so many athletes believe they don't have that after their days on the field are done. And it is not funny. People ask me all the time, I want to be an entrepreneur. And I look them dead in the face and say, no, you don't.
Trust me, you don't. Trust me. It is very hard. I get tired of the meetings. I get tired of the phone calls. I get tired of doing all the stuff that I've never had to do in my entire life.
I get tired of having my guts ripped out and thrown onto the table and said, Jed, no. Go on to your next meeting. And it's like, how am I supposed to go smile?
Yeah. Oh, no, we've decided to end our partnership. We're going to go a different direction.
Thanks.
Those are the worst days. Listen, we'll have our next podcast talking about that.
Yes, sir. I appreciate the opportunity. I appreciate the platform and the ability to share the Money Vehicle movement. We are serving 20,000 plus high school students nationwide. If you have any interest in bringing financial empowerment to your community, by all means, check us out. But Gary, easy to talk to you. Who dat for life? And just thank you again.
Yeah, we've got the links. You'll find the links in the show notes. Jedidiah, Jed Collins, you're the best, man. Thank you and good luck to you.
Thank you, sir.